sis, let me ask you something real. Are you living or just existing? Because there's a difference. One is survival, the other is royalty. And baby, if nobody told you today, you weren't made to survive. You were made to reign. See, society has made it cute to settle, to shrink, to play small. We've been fed lies that told us we're too much, too loud, too bold, too confident. But I came to tell you today, you are not too much. You are just enough for the right space. And when you understand that, girl, everything changes. Because there's something powerful about a woman who knows her worth, not just in her curves or her coins, but in her calling. And today, I want to speak to the queen in you, the version of you that's been buried under trauma, under heartbreak, under comparison, under shame. Today, we're talking about the 5 rules to become a high-value woman. Not the kind the world defines, but the kind God designed. The woman who walks with fire in her soul, peace in her heart, and purpose in her steps. Let me tell you something that will shift the atmosphere in your spirit if you let it. Your value is not earned, it's inherited. You don't have to jump through hoops for it. You don't have to prove yourself for it. You don't have to beg, break, or bend for it. You were born with it, stamped with royalty, marked with divine purpose before you ever did a thing to deserve it, before the accolades, before the relationships, before the heartbreak, before the healing. You were already valuable. But the world doesn't teach us that, does it? No, the world teaches us to perform, to smile when we're crumbling, to grind when we're exhausted, to shrink ourselves into spaces that were never built to hold our greatness, just so we can feel seen, accepted, loved. The world says earn your seat, but heaven says you are the table. You don't have to become what you already are. You just have to remember. Somewhere along the way, maybe it was in that relationship that drained your soul. Maybe it was the job that never saw your worth. Maybe it was the parent who never said, I'm proud of you. Somewhere you started to believe you were only as good as your last achievement, that your value came with a price tag, that it could be negotiated, discounted, or worse, ignored. But let me paint you a picture. A diamond doesn't know it's a diamond because someone calls it that. It's a diamond because of what it's made of. Pressure didn't define it, it revealed it. And guess what? Even if it ends up in the dirt, it's still a diamond. It can be unpolished, it can be hidden, it can be overlooked, but its value never leaves. You're the same. Life may have covered you in layers of doubt. Circumstances may have buried your confidence. People may have mishandled your heart, but nothing has changed your core. You are still who God said you are. Chosen, favor worthy. I think about the little girl who sat in her room trying to make sense of why she didn't feel enough, why her reflection never seemed to measure up. She started to hustle for approval, straight A's, the perfect body, the perfect smile, the good job, the people-pleasing spirit that never said no, because maybe, just maybe, if she did enough, someone would finally say she was worthy. But the lie in that thinking is this: nothing external can validate what was already divine. It doesn't matter how loud the world applauds you if you're not clapping for yourself in private. It doesn't matter how many followers, likes, degrees, or dollars you stack. If your soul doesn't know its worth, you'll always feel bankrupt. Let me bring it closer. Ever gone shopping and picked something off the rack, looked at the tag and thought, this is too expensive? But the designer didn't ask for your opinion when they set that price. The value was established by the maker, not the buyer. That's you. God set your value before anyone else even had the right to speak on it. And baby girl, not everyone can afford you, and that's okay. Stop apologizing for your standards. Stop discounting your worth because someone else doesn't see it. You're not hard to love. They just didn't know how to hold someone holy. You're not too ambitious, too emotional, too intense. You are just enough for a space that is ordained for you. You were not created to be tolerated. You were created to be treasured. And if you don't believe in your value, life will keep handing you clearance rack experiences when you were made for custom tailored blessings. You'll stay in rooms you've outgrown. You'll entertain conversations that insult your calling. You'll say yes to things that drain you simply because you forgot that no is a full sentence and self-respect is not arrogance, it's awareness. You ever seen a woman who knows her worth walk into a room? She doesn't need to be loud. She doesn't need to compete. She doesn't need to prove anything. She just is. That's power. That's what happens when a woman stops chasing validation and starts operating in her inheritance. Let me tell you what happens when you know your value. You stop settling. You stop begging for bare minimum love. You stop over-explaining your boundaries. You stop lowering your standards for temporary companionship. You start honoring your time, your peace, your presence. You become unavailable for chaos. You become allergic to disrespect. You become uninterested in anything that doesn't align with your destiny. Not because you think you're better, but because you finally remembered who you are. And when you walk in that identity, not ego, but as everything shifts, your relationships level up, your decisions sharpen, your energy changes, and the people who are assigned to your purpose will recognize you, not because you yelled, but because your presence said everything your words didn't have to. That's why I say your value is not earned, it's inherited. Because if you ever start believing you have to earn it, you'll always be performing, always looking for a mirror to reflect back your worth. But baby, you are the mirror, you are the light, you are the masterpiece in the message. And when you move like that, you become untouchable, unshakable, unstoppable. Healing is not optional, it's foundational. You can't build a palace on broken ground and expect it not to collapse. You can't pour destiny into a heart full of cracks and think it won't leak. We keep trying to dress up our pain, post over it, pray around it, and perform through it. But sis, if you don't face it, it will follow you. Healing isn't something you schedule for later. It's something your future is demanding right now. You can't walk into your calling still limping from the trauma you won't talk about. You can't show up as a high-value woman while still carrying the residue of being overlooked, mishandled, or betrayed. Because what you won't heal from, you'll eventually bleed into. Your relationships, your purpose, your self-worth, it all gets tainted when you ignore what's festering inside. Let me be real. You can't keep pretending you're okay when you're still triggered by silence, by abandonment, by the feeling of being left on red, by someone raising their voice, by rejection that feels like a slap in the soul. That isn't weakness, baby. That's a wound. And wounds left unattended will get infected. Emotional infection looks like sabotage. It looks like pushing people away before they can leave. It looks like settling because you don't think you're worthy of better. It looks like jealousy dressed up as confidence. It looks like smiling while suffocating. Some of y'all are building beautiful lives on top of broken identities, trying to create peace while your inner world is still at war. You've learned how to function with pain, but functioning is not flourishing. Survival is not success. Just because you're moving doesn't mean you're healed. Just because you're not crying every night anymore doesn't mean you've let it go. Sometimes we bury what we haven't processed and we call it healing. But burying is not the same as releasing. You don't have to act like what happened to you didn't hurt. That heartbreak that tore you open, it was real. That parent who never showed up the way they should have, that was painful. That friend who betrayed your trust, that cut deep. But healing doesn't require denial. It requires truth. You have to sit with the discomfort. You have to ask the hard questions. You have to look in the mirror and admit, yes, I'm still carrying that, and then choose to do the work, because healing is work. It's not cute. It's not Instagram worthy. It's messy. It's crying at 2 a.m. because you finally stop numbing. It's setting boundaries that make people uncomfortable. It's choosing solitude over codependency. It's deleting that number. It's going to therapy. It's journaling until the truth starts pouring out of you like fire. It's choosing you every single day, even when it's easier to stay broken because broken feels familiar. I need you to hear this. Your unhealed pain will always try to protect you by limiting you. It'll say, don't trust her, she'll betray you like the last one. Don't dream too big, you'll be disappointed. Don't love again, remember how that ended? But pain is not your protector. Healing is. I once heard someone say, the version of you that created the mess can't be the same version that fixes it, and that hit deep. Because sometimes we want transformation without transformation. We want the new life without letting go of the old thinking. But you can't heal in the same environment that hurts you. Sometimes healing means walking away. Sometimes it means changing your circle. Sometimes it means changing you. Let's talk real life. You ever tried working out with an injury? You might get through the workout, but you're only making it worse. That's what emotional pain is like. You can keep pushing through life with that wound, but eventually it'll catch up. Your body keeps score, your spirit keeps score, and when you're finally forced to rest, you'll realize you were never really whole. You were just busy. Some of y'all are addicted to busy because it keeps you distracted from what you haven't healed. You fill your schedule so you don't have to sit still long enough to feel. But silence is sacred when you're healing. In the quiet, truth gets loud. In the stillness, God speaks. In the pause, your heart starts to unravel all the knots you tried to tie yourself around. Healing is not about perfection, it's about presence. Being present enough with yourself to say, this still hurts, but also I deserve more than this pain. It's about reclaiming your power from the places where you lost it. It's about loving the younger version of you who didn't know better and choosing to be better now. And here's the wild part. When you heal, everything around you starts aligning. You stop attracting chaos. You stop accepting less. You stop needing validation because healing reminds you who you were before the world tried to break you. It reconnects you to your source. It silences the noise and it strengthens your spirit. Some people will say you've changed, but what they really mean is you stop bleeding on people who didn't cut you. You stop carrying guilt that didn't belong to you. You stop choosing pain dressed up as love, and now you choose peace like your life depends on it, because it does. Standards are not walls, they're gates, and there's a difference. See, when you build a wall, you're trying to keep everything out, but when you install a gate, you're saying, I get to decide who enters and who doesn't. Standards don't make you cold, they make you clear about who you are, what you value, and what you will no longer tolerate. We live in a world that tries to shame women for having standards. They'll call you difficult, too picky, bougie, or hard to please, but the truth is they're just uncomfortable with a woman who refuses to settle. You want to know what's really too much? A woman who has shrunk herself for years to fit into spaces that never honored her. A woman who stayed silent when she should have spoken. A woman who kept choosing pain because she didn't believe peace was possible. That is too much. Too much compromise, too much pretending, too much self-abandonment. Standards are not the problem. Self-neglect is. There's this lie floating around that says if you want to be loved, you have to lower your expectations. Let me speak this over your spirit. The right person will not be intimidated by your standards. They'll be inspired by them, because people who are meant to be in your life will rise to meet your value. They won't ask you to settle. They won't make you feel guilty for knowing what you bring to the table. In fact, when your standards are rooted in your self-worth, you don't just attract people, you attract alignment. Let me bring it home. Think about a luxury brand. Louis Vuitton, Chanel, Bentley. These brands don't apologize for their price tag. They don't do sales. They don't chase customers. They don't explain why they cost what they cost. Why? Because they know their value. They've set a standard. And people either rise to it or they walk away. That's how you have to treat your life, your love, your peace, your body, your time, your presence. Standards are how you protect your garden. You don't let just anyone walk through a field of roses without checking if they have respect for the soil. But some of us have been leaving the gate wide open, letting unqualified people enter sacred spaces. People who trample over your heart because they were never meant to hold it. People who misuse your time because they never valued it in the first place. People who liked your light but couldn't handle your truth. And yet you stayed. You tolerated crumbs. You excused behavior that drained you. You kept hoping they'd change, but the standard never changed. The you who enforced it just got tired of waiting. Sis, let me tell you, raising your standards doesn't mean you're asking for too much. It means you finally stopped accepting too little. It means you got tired of explaining why bare minimum is not enough. It means you realize that peace feels better than presence, that respect hits harder than attention, that consistency outweighs chemistry. A gate means you have the right to choose, to say, if you can't communicate, I can't commit. If you can't love me in wholeness, don't touch me in pieces. A gate means not everyone deserves access to the most intimate parts of you, not because you're bitter, but because you've healed. You don't need to be available to everyone just because you're kind. You don't have to respond to every text. You don't have to entertain every opportunity. You don't have to fix every broken person. You're not God, you're human, and humans need boundaries. You ever been to an exclusive event? There's a guest list, there's security, there's a dress code, not because they think they're better, but because the environment was curated with intention. That's how your life should be. Curated, protected, aligned. Stop letting people show up in your life with dirty shoes, walk all over your peace, and leave you to clean up the mess. And let's talk about loneliness for a moment, because sometimes when you raise your standards, you lose company, but not every loss is a bad thing. Sometimes peace looks like your phone not ringing. Sometimes growth means you're not available for people who only want access, not accountability. Sometimes elevation means isolation, but that's not punishment, it's preparation. Some of y'all have lowered your standards because you were afraid of being alone. But let me tell you something radical. Being alone and in alignment feels better than being surrounded and out of sync. Don't trade your values for validation. Don't confuse connection with compatibility. Don't assume loyalty is love, because love without respect is manipulation, and love without effort is just convenience. You set the tone for how people treat you. Every time you allow behavior that dishonors you, you teach the world what your standard is. Every time you keep silent about what hurts you, you communicate that your voice doesn't matter. But when you raise the bar, when you say this is the level I operate on, the people who aren't meant to walk with you will fall off, and that's divine protection. Don't let past pain make you drop your gate. Don't let desperation make you forget your identity. And don't ever believe the lie that high standards will leave you empty. Because the truth is, low standards will leave you drained, and drained women can't build destiny. Femininity is strength, not weakness. I need you to hear that with your whole chest, because somewhere along the way, this world convinced us that to be feminine meant to be fragile, that softness was weakness, that gentleness meant you could be taken advantage of, that emotion made you unstable, and so we hardened. We toughened up, we built armor around our hearts, raised our voices, clenched our fists, and walked into rooms like we had something to prove. Not because we wanted to, but because we had to. But since I came to tell you something powerful, your softness is sacred. Your tenderness is a weapon. Your empathy is a superpower. Femininity is not the absence of power. It's the presence of divine alignment. It's not about being passive, it's about being powerful without performing like a man. You don't have to trade in your essence to be taken seriously. You don't have to shut down your intuition to be respected. You don't have to abandon your heart to protect it. What you carry as a woman is holy. You were designed with layers, with grace, with nurturing, with discernment. You were created to shift atmospheres without raising your voice. And when you lean into that, you unlock a level of power that doesn't need to shout to be felt. Let me break this down. There's a reason a woman can walk into a room and everything gets still. There's a reason your energy shifts things. It's because true femininity is magnetic. It doesn't need to chase. It doesn't need to force. It simply attracts. But this culture has tried to convince you that in order to survive, you need to become colder, meaner, more guarded, more distant. And while boundaries are necessary, bitterness is not your protection, it's your prison. You can be soft and secure. You can be gentle and firm. You can be nurturing and powerful. You don't have to choose between your nature and your calling. The world may not know what to do with the woman who knows how to hold both strength and softness, but heaven does, because God designed you that way on purpose. Think about the power of a mother. She births life through pain. She carries for months. She loses sleep. She sacrifices her body, her time, her comfort, and she does it with love. That is not weakness. That is divine strength wrapped in humility. Or think about the friend who sees you unraveling and knows exactly what to say, not to fix you, but to hold you. That is strength. The kind of strength that doesn't need a platform to be impactful. But you know what breaks my heart? The way so many of us have been punished for our femininity, told we were too emotional when we were simply in tune, told we were too sensitive when we were actually highly intuitive, told we were too much when we were just fully alive. And after a while, we start believing it. We start suppressing. We start silencing. We start becoming what the world demands instead of embracing who we really are. But listen, your tears don't make you weak. They make you real. Your compassion doesn't make you naive, it makes you connected. Your vulnerability is not a liability, it's your greatest bridge to intimacy and authenticity. There's a reason women have the ability to create safe spaces, because we are the safe space when we stop trying to be anything other than who we are. Let's be real. Have you ever had to lead while bleeding, smile while hurting, hold your family together while your own heart was in pieces? That is not weakness. That's resilience. That's grit. That's warrior spirit. And yet you did it gracefully, didn't you? You didn't bulldoze. You didn't bark orders. You moved with wisdom, with quiet power, with intuitive leadership. That is the essence of true femininity. It's not loud. It's not controlling. It's unshakably secure. We've been taught to fear the word submission, but submission isn't slavery. It's sacred trust. It's choosing peace over power plays. It's saying, I don't need to dominate to be dominant. It's walking into a relationship, a business, a dream, not with ego, but with energy that says, I know who I am. I don't have to prove it. I just have to be it. You don't have to mimic masculinity to be taken seriously. God didn't design you to be a knockoff version of a man. He designed you to be fully woman in all your glory. And when you truly embody that, you walk different, you speak different, you love different, you move through the world with a type of grace that cannot be duplicated, only divinely given. Every time you try to bury your softness, you bury your power. Every time you numb your emotion, you silence your intuition. Every time you reject your femininity to fit into a version of success that was never designed for you, you shrink yourself from the inside out. And that's the thing. They may never understand your strength, but your strength isn't for their validation. It's for your assignment, because you weren't created to be like everyone else. You were created to be the answer to a problem, the light in a dark space, the healing in a broken generation. There is a reason the enemy attacks your femininity, because it's the very thing that holds life, carries vision, births destiny, and nurtures nations. You can't water the world if you've dried yourself out trying to prove you're not weak. You don't have to prove anything. You just have to return to yourself, because that is where your strength lives. You attract what you reflect. Let that settle in your spirit. What you radiate from your soul is what shows up in your life. Not because the universe is playing favorites, but because your energy, your mindset, your standards, your healing, your self-worth, they all create the magnet that pulls people, opportunities, and experiences toward you. You want better? Start becoming better. You want love? Start embodying love. You want peace? Start choosing peace, even when chaos is comfortable. So many people are out here praying for things their character can't sustain, asking God for a king, but still thinking like a prisoner, wanting next level elevation, but refusing to let go of low vibration habits, desiring loyalty, but still entertaining distractions. You can't attract what you haven't become. God won't send what you're not ready to steward, because what you reflect is what you allow, what you nurture, and what you settle for. Let's talk real life. Have you ever met someone and thought, why do I keep attracting the same kind of people, the same pain in a different body, the same cycles in a different season? And the truth, though hard, is this: it's because we haven't yet healed the version of us that invites it in. It's not about blame, it's about awareness. You don't attract toxicity because you deserve it. You attract it because somewhere deep down, your brokenness still believes that's the best you can get. Somewhere in your reflection, there's an open door that says, I'll tolerate less, just please don't leave. But sis, you were never meant to beg for love you deserved, or to chase peace you're called to carry. When you start seeing yourself clearly, your reflection changes. And when your reflection changes, your attraction does too. It starts with how you talk to yourself. Some of us speak defeat and expect victory. We speak fear and expect courage. We rehearse rejection and expect love. But life echoes your language. If you keep saying, I'm not good enough, guess what your spirit starts to believe? And once your spirit believes it, your actions follow. You dim your light, you shrink your standards, you silence your worth, and then you wonder why you keep attracting people who overlook you. It's because somewhere you've overlooked yourself. You want a seat at the table, pull out the chair in your own life first. You want people to respect you? Start respecting your time, your voice, your boundaries. You want deep soul-filled connections? Be the kind of person who shows up with intention and integrity. That's not being fake. That's being aligned. Think about a mirror. It doesn't show what's not there. It simply reflects. So if you're looking in your life and all you see is pain, chaos, inconsistency, Don't curse the mirror. Check the source. Because sometimes the hardest truth is that we've been blaming everything external when the transformation we're waiting for is internal. And let's be honest, some of us are addicted to struggle. We've worn our brokenness like a badge. We've made survival our identity. We don't know who we are without the chaos, so we keep attracting it. Peace feels foreign, wholeness feels suspicious, and so we go back to what's familiar. But sis, just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's right. Just because it feels safe doesn't mean it's healthy. You have to become the woman who no longer entertains what drains her, the woman who walks away the first time her worth is questioned, the woman who doesn't just talk about standards but lives them. Because when you reflect high self-worth, you attract people who won't play with it. When you reflect confidence, you attract respect. When you reflect peace, you repel drama. And it's not just about romantic relationships. This is about your friendships, your job, your purpose, your life. You can't reflect confusion and expect clarity. You can't live in procrastination and expect promotion. You can't harbor unforgiveness and expect freedom. What's on the inside always shows up on the outside eventually. You want to change your life, change your reflection, not just the one in the mirror, but the one in your soul. Ask yourself, what energy am I putting out? What am I tolerating that no longer aligns with where I'm going? What parts of me are still unhealed and attracting dysfunction? Let's talk faith for a moment. The woman with a healed heart walks different. She doesn't chase, she doesn't beg, she doesn't settle, she doesn't audition for places she's already been called to. Why? Because her reflection is rooted in her identity, not her insecurity. She knows she's not for everybody, but she is for somebody. And until that somebody shows up, be it a partner, an opportunity, a purpose, connection, she reflects wholeness. And wholeness becomes her filter, because when you raise your reflection, your life has no choice but to respond. You stop attracting chaos when your peace becomes non-negotiable. You stop attracting takers when you no longer hand out access without discernment. You stop attracting confusion when your decisions are rooted in clarity and not desperation. People feel your energy before they hear your words. They feel your healing before they know your story. They respond not just to what you say, but to who you are. And if you've been reflecting survival, it's time to reflect strength. If you've been reflecting fear, it's time to reflect faith. If you've been reflecting scarcity, it's time to reflect abundance. This is the season where you no longer attract what hurts you. This is the season where you reflect a healed, whole, powerful woman, and everything that's meant for her will find its way. Discipline is love turned inward. It's not punishment. It's not restriction. It's not control. It's the highest form of self-respect. It's the quiet voice inside that says, I love you too much to keep letting you live beneath your potential. Discipline is not the enemy. It's the evidence that you finally decided to show up for yourself like you show up for everyone else. We live in a world that glorifies hustle but ignores healing. A world that tells us to do more, achieve more, become more, but never ask us to sit down and ask ourselves why we avoid the mirror. Discipline doesn't start in the gym, in the planner, or in the checklist. It starts in the heart. It starts with choosing yourself consistently, not when it's convenient, not when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. Some of us think self-love is bubble baths and vacations, and yes, that's part of it, but the real love, the deep, unshakable kind, looks like discipline. It looks like going to bed when your soul wants to scroll. It looks like turning down the invitation because your peace costs more than popularity. It looks like choosing nourishment over numbing. It looks like staying in when you're tempted to run, because healing lives on the other side of discomfort. Have you ever wanted something so bad but couldn't seem to stick to the path to get it? Not because you weren't capable, but because something in you hadn't clicked yet. That click is discipline. That moment when you realize, I can't keep praying for things I'm not willing to prepare for. That's when the shift happens. That's when love becomes action. That's when your habits stop being accidental and start becoming intentional. We've confused discipline with deprivation. But sis, discipline isn't about what you're giving up. It's about what you're making room for. You're not losing freedom. You're gaining alignment. You're not missing out. You're maturing. And let me tell you something. Maturity is realizing that feelings are not facts. That just because you're tired doesn't mean you're done. That just because you feel like quitting doesn't mean it's your exit sign. Discipline is what what keeps you rooted when motivation leaves the room. It's what keeps you building when applause fades. It's what makes you get up even when your bed feels like a sanctuary of escape. It's the whisper that says you promise yourself more, and I won't let you forget that. Think about it like this. If someone you loved was about to walk into a fire, you'd stop them. You'd pull them back. You'd say, this will hurt you. That's what discipline is. It's pulling yourself back when you're about to sabotage your future. It's choosing to pause, to breathe, to remember who you're becoming. And sometimes discipline looks like saying no to what everyone else is saying yes to. That's lonely, isn't it? When your circle can't see your vision, when your progress makes people uncomfortable, when your growth means you can't show up the way you used to. But sis, don't confuse loneliness with lack. Sometimes isolation is the cocoon before the transformation, and discipline is what keeps you in the process long enough to see the promise. You ever seen a woman who's truly disciplined? She moves different. She doesn't just react, she responds. She doesn't just dream, she executes. She's not swayed by distraction because her destiny is louder. And when you ask her how she got there, she won't say, I was lucky. She'll say, I stayed consistent when it was boring. I stayed focused when it was quiet. I kept showing up when no one was clapping. Because discipline is love in motion. It's telling yourself, I'm not going to abandon me again. It's looking at your old patterns and saying, not this time. This time we finish what we started. This time we protect what we prayed for. This time we hold the line, even when it hurts. And yes, it will hurt. Growth always does. Discipline will stretch you. It will confront your excuses. It will reveal your triggers. It will strip away your comforts, but it will also build your character. It will sharpen your focus. It will teach you endurance. It will prepare you for the very thing you've been asking for. Don't let a temporary feeling sabotage a lifelong reward. Don't let a moment of weakness become your pattern. Don't let comfort trick you into staying average, because greatness doesn't come to those who want it. It comes to those who work for it. Not once, not sometimes, consistently.